Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you are able and join me in the welcoming of City Council and the playing of the National Anthem and the reading of the Invocation.
Would you please remain standing as you're able as I read the invocation. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. And let us also not forget those who've served our community, who are no longer with us, and whose work we must continue in their memory. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Councillor Antosky? Here. Councillor Sokoli? Here. Councillor McCreary?
Here.
Councillor Utley?
Here.
Councillor Martin?
Here.
Councillor Vanderstelt?
Present.
Councillor Van Tilborg?
Present.
Councillor Sless?
Present.
Councillor Carpenter?
Here.
Councillor Wall?
Present.
And Mayor Davis.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we have tonight assisting us from clerks. We have, of course, Tanya Daniels, who is the city clerk, and providing clerking services and assisting her, Lisa Madden. So having taken the roll call, we'll now confirm the rules of procedure. And I'd like to remind members of council staff and our viewing public of the electronic participation policy for hybrid meetings. For those staff and delegates joining electronically, please keep your video and microphones off until requested by chair or the members of council. All rules for delegation under the city's procedural bylaw continue to apply. The full corporate policy number 15 regarding electronic visual participation for meetings is available online to review on the city's website. It's my understanding, I'll move now to declarations of conflict of interest. I understand, Councillor Vanderstelt, you have a conflict you want to declare on item 12.1.3, the Brantwood Phase 2 subdivision agreement and road dedicating bylaw. Would you please confirm and state the nature of your conflict?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, exactly the same conflict I had on December 7th, Cal. Our family business, Serenity supplies Sunny Homes on a regular basis with product. Thank you.
All right, so other members of council, does anybody wish to declare a conflict of interest on any of the other items that appear on tonight's agenda? If so, physically raise your hand if you're here in the room, and electronically if you're participating virtually. So seeing no raised hands, looks like we have no conflicts of interest, so we can move on to deal with the separation of items and committee reports for discussion purposes. And just a reminder that urgent reports and resolutions, so those will be items 13.1 and 14.1, they will be dealt with individually. So this time, I'm asking if there's anything that anybody wants separated in the various committee reports. Councillor Antosky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 2.1.18, representative for FCM Cannabis Committee, please.
Okay, just let me find that. So that's 12.2.1.
12.1.18, please.
Yeah, okay. So let's circle that. Anyone else? Councillor Martin.
Yeah, item 12.2.1, emergency social system.
Emergency shelter. Anyone else? There is one I'd like separated. I believe it's, yes, 12.4.8. Hybrid meeting. So not seeing any other requests for separation. And of course, we'll be dealing with item 12.1.3 separately because of Councillor Vanderstell's conflict. So Councillor McCurry, if you could please move the motion to approve all items in the committee reports that have not been separated for discussion purposes.
So moved, Mayor, the seconder being Councillor Martin.
Thank you. So Madam Clerk, before we take the vote, would you please read the title of the items that we're voting on?
Certainly. So the items subject to this vote are as follows. Committee of the Whole Operations, 12.1.1, 2022 Water and Wastewater Rate Study. 12.1.2 Corporate Security Guard Services Plan. 12.1.4 Emergency Procurement to Design, Develop, and Implement Lane Reductions on the Ava Road Bridge. 12.1.5 Non-Competitive Procurement for the Structural Engineering of the Ava Road Bridge. 12.1.6 Year 2022 Capital Projects Funding Pre-Approvals. 12.1.7 44 Elgin Street Tractor Trailer Access Improvements. 12.1.8 Ada Avenue and Palmerston Avenue full closure update. 12.1.9 Public Works Policy Amendments. 12.1.10 3 Grand River Crossings Environmental Assessment Completion. 12.1.11 Service Review Opportunities Update. 12.1.12 Competitive Procurement of Broker Services. 12.1.13 Southwest Community Center Project Letter of Intent. 12.1.14 User Fee and Non-Resident Review Task Force Report. 12.1.15 Vision Zero Road Safety Committee Report. 12.1.16 Gold Recognition for the City in the Grand River Watershed Wastewater Optimization Program. 12.1.17 Climate Change Action Plan and Emissions Inventory Annual Update. 12.1.19 Always Stop Evelyn and Bernard Streets. 12.1.20 40-kilometer-an-hour speed limit for Sandra Street. 12.1.21 Recognition of Ann Westaway. 12.1.22 Disposal of residential curbside yard waste materials at Mohawk Street landfill site. From your social services agenda, 12.2.2 Homelessness and Individuals Family Information System third quarter report and homelessness by name list information update. 12.2.3 Housing Security Solutions. 12.2.4 2021 Annual Update on the Brantford Brant Municipal Housing Master Plan 2020 to 2030 and Affordable Housing Action Plan. 12.2.5 Live Well Brantford Brant Q3 Quarterly Report. Community Finance Committee. 12.3.1 Wilfrid Laurier University's request for funding support for a cultural hub project at One Market. 12.3.2 2022 Property Tax Policy. 12.3.3 Debt Management Policy. 12.3.4 Quarterly Reserve and Reserve Fund Update. 12.3.5 Temporary Borrowing for the Municipality. 12.3.6 Update on Capital Projects. 12.3.7 Budget Items Balanced by Reserve Fund Policy. Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration. 12.4.1 Brantford Accessibility Plan 2021 Status Update. 12.4.2 Heritage Grant Program Review and Update. 12.4.3 Heritage Grant Program Application for 175 Brant Ave. 12.4.4 Update on Street Naming. 12.4.5, Brantford Accessibility Advisory Committee report regarding terms of reference and amendments to Schedule 5 of Chapter 26 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code. 12.4.6, Sport Tourism Strategy Annual Status Report. 12.4.7, Tow Truck Regulation. 12.4.9, Appointment of Directors to Merge Co Holding Company Board. All items not separated for discussion purposes have carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, so there are no statutory public hearings, recognitions of achievement, proclamations, presentations, or delegations for this evening's meeting. So we'll move then to item 10, which is the clerk's report and communications. Understand, Councillor Carpenter, you had the motion to receive the clerk's report and communications. If you would
Yes,
please.
thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr.
Secretary,
Mayor.
read it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself and seconded by my ward mate, Councilor Cheryl Toski, that the clerk's report and communication for December 2021 be received.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on that?
Clerk's report on communications is carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, we'll move then to item number 11, which is approving the minutes of previous meetings and as well as that of the John Noble Home, at least receiving those minutes. Councillor Wall, understand you have that motion. If you would please confirm that, read the motion and state your seconder.
Excellent. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor McCreary. That the following minutes be adopted. 11.1 City Council, September 28th, 2021. 11.2 City Council, October 26th, 2021. 11.3 City Council, November 23rd, 2021. 11.4 Special City Council, November 24th, 2021. 11.5 Special City Council, December 11th, 2021. 11.6 Special City Council, December 14th, 2021. 11.7 Special City Council Private and Confidential, November 24th, 2021. 11.8 Special City Council Private and Confidential, December 14th, 2021. And that the following minutes be received. 11.7 John Noble Home Committee of Management, December 8th, 2021.
All right, so are there any errors, omissions on the regular special council minutes or discussion on the John Noble Home Committee of Management meeting minutes? Seeing no raised hands, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
All minutes have carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to item 12, which are the committee reports, and in particular, those items that were separated for discussion or voting purposes. Councillor Secoli, I understand you have the motion to place all separate items on the committee floor. If you would please read that motion.
Where
And-
do I find this to read it?
You'll find it, it'll come up just a minute from now, it'll come up. There we go.
That all items in the committee reports, item 12.1 to 12.2, separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
All right, and Councillor Vanderstel, are you seconding that?
Mr. Mayor, it would be an absolute honor to second that. Thank you.
All right. All right, so we'll take the items then in the number that they're ordered. I think the first item is 12.1.3. This is the Brantwood Phase 2 subdivision agreement, which is separated out because of Councillor Vanderstel's conflict. So we'll deal with that separately. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the vote on that item.
Did it come up? Item 12.1.3, Brant West Phase 2 subdivision agreement and road dedicating bylaw carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Utley, Slash McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski Van Til, Bourgeois. Mayor Davis noting Councillor Vanderstolt's conflict.
So we'll now move to item 12.1.18, the representative for FCM Cannabis Committee. Councillor Antosky, you asked for this to be separated.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm gonna take another run at this, hoping for some Christmas cheer here. I'd like to move an amendment, and I'm seeking a seconder to strike the deferred paragraph on this. I guess I can't speak until I have a seconder. Councillor McCreary is over there. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. This is really important on two fronts. We certainly have a local issue with this, and the neighborhood is really suffering with some gaps that the federal government has with this cannabis facility. They can't enjoy their outside. And so this is something that's paramount for us locally to pay attention to. But on the FCM front, there are many communities across the country that are also dealing with this and trying to find a way through this to bring some peace and some comfort to the residents that are living near these facilities, and to make sure that we button up the policies around these health facilities that are licensed specifically by Health Canada. So I'm hoping that my colleagues will take the deferred out of this so that we're ready when this committee is struck, and so that Brantford can be at that table, that national table, to bring our personal and our experience from Brantford to the table, but also to share it with other communities that are struggling with the same thing. I just hope that we can move this forward. Thank you.
All right. Councillor McCreary, you're next.
Someday, eventually, I think I'll understand how these microphones work. Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to assist Councillor Antosky in putting this back on the table tonight. We did have a chat about the need for some rather prompt action with respect to this. It doesn't forego the fact that eventually we'll have a look at our policies around out-of-town travel and so on, but we don't want to complicate that by having this in the mix again tonight. And I appreciate Councillor Antosky's advocacy for this and making it go forward tonight. I do have a question for the clerk. Through you, Mayor, to Tanya. Do we have a supplementary appointments process coming up early in the new year?
Through the chair to Councillor McCreary, yes, we do. So we will have vacancies on various committees that will need an appointments committee in early 2022. At this point, it's scheduled for February.
So there'll be a number of those, right?
There are a few, yes.
Okay. I'm thinking through your, Mayor, again, with the leave of the mover, I think might be an advantage for us to strike the name of a councillor from this process, and we can add that name in when we do the appointments process early in 2022. There may be other options. There may be other folks that are interested, and typically we allow that to come forward. So I guess with the move of not with the move of the lever, but with the leave of the mover, I would ask that to be friendly, and we'll simply insert a space for the name.
Councillor Antosky confirming that's friendly.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Van Til.
Yes, this is something I'm very happy to support, the removal of the deferral. I think in the discussion earlier this month, it got lost in the weeds, the effect upon the local community from the cannabis operation. And quite frankly, this Christmas is going to be, let's hope that their Christmas trees can put out a higher level of smell than the odor of the cannabis that permeates the houses. It's, I'd like to see somebody directly affected, representing the ward, deal with this, because it is very, very real. It's been going on for a couple of years. And I think that if you're directly involved, you'll realize why we'll have to press that forward at FCM. We have to be the leader on this. I don't know if there is another situation in a community where a federal facility is interfering with the well-being of residents to such a degree that this cannabis facility does. And the irony of this is that we we went out of the frying pan and into the fire when some businesses changed there. So unfortunately, the people in this area haven't had a lot of relief for a number of years due to the various different activities that industry has done. And I really wish we could have zoned that area right out, because it has caused a lot of chaos and controversy with the more recent endeavors that have been happening. So be looking forward to see who gets appointed to that position in the new year.
Councillor Utley, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support this as well. The Ward 4 councillors have a real serious problem in their ward where there's a large grow operation. And I've traveled through that area for a period of time, and it's overwhelming. I mean, you can smell marijuana at least a block away. And I think, wow, there's no way that I'd want to live in this, this neighborhood. But they're caught. I mean, they can't move, and they're captured by a very irresponsible operation that is doing nothing to work with their neighbors. So absolutely, we need somebody at the table at FCM, and I look forward to that coming before us and making that choice. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So not seeing any further speakers, Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote on this friendly amended resolution?
So
You're going to call the vote on the amendment,
thank you.
the friendly amended
The
amendment.
friendly amended, yes. The amendment to item 12.1.18, representative to SCM Cannabis Committee, carried in a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor: Councillor Secoli, Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, and Tusky, Van Tilburg, Walmer, Davis.
All right, so we have that resolution 12.1.18. It's been amended. Any further discussion before I call the vote on the amended resolution? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the amended resolution?
Item 12.1.18, representative for FCM Cannabis Committee as amended, has carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor: Councillor Secoli, Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, and Tusky, Van Tilburg, Walmer, Davis.
We'll now move on to the third item was separated, and that's item 12.2.1, the emergency shelter system. Councillor Martin, you asked for it to be separated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through you to staff, since I'm not on social services, could we get a brief explanation as to what the plan is for this?
Yeah, we did have.
Oh, somebody coming on now.
Yes, hello. Deb Schlichter, Acting Director, Housing and Homelessness, through the chair. Yes, the report is a summary of the position of what had happened last winter and what we're proposing for this winter. So we're proposing to have shelter spaces for the months of January to April at 78 for the whole system. And then after April, return back to 68 spaces. So that would be for adults and youth. So we are utilizing the SURF funding to help us with those extra costs to augment the beds for those months. And then we return back to the system during the rest of the year. We believe we've got the number correct right now. Of course, things can change, so we're always keeping our eye on it. Thanks.
Okay, and does this plan involve utilizing hotels for excess homeless?
Yes, the hotels are always part of a system when we reach capacity or when we have special specific needs, like an intact family, we would use a motel for that. So the motels are always our backup. We try to have enough formal shelter spaces and for each specific population in need, and then the motels are the backup.
Okay, and did we utilize any motels last year?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And when we utilize motels, is there damage done to the motels that the city is responsible for?
There can be damage. We do pay for the cost of damage. That's part of the agreement with the motel owners.
And do we have an estimate of what that was last season?
I don't know that number offhand. I know Anthony's here, but I don't know that maybe he has that number. But we do cover that. That's part of the agreement with hotel owners.
Could we have that number emailed to us at a later time then when that's available?
Okay.
Thank you. That's my questions, Mr. Mayor.
Next, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Deb Schlichter. Deb, we often, members of council, get emails from concerned citizens who are extremely concerned about the homeless situation in Brantford. They describe it in detail, and they are concerned that there may not be enough space, enough accommodations, whether in the formal sense or the informal sense in the hotel capacity that we have at our disposal and have had. But correct me if I'm wrong, Deb, we have always had vacancy in our shelter system, and we've always had the supports necessary for people who would choose those accommodations should it meet their, I guess, their criteria of where they want to stay overnight, regardless of the weather. I mean, as far as I can recall, please correct me if I'm wrong, we've always had capacity in our systems. Is that correct?
Through the chair, it is correct that we often have capacity in the system at all times during the year, even during the winter. We have not reached occupancy, and in the chart in the report, there are times where we have reached up to 90% occupancy, and we've that's the alarm bell saying we're getting close. We need to make sure we have other spaces in case we get close. But no,
right.
We have.
Right. Okay. There's always been room. Okay. And not to walk down the road of fear mongering about this new strain of virus, but basically we have at our disposal the proper accommodations for people considering what may be increased restrictions going forward. We will always be able to safely accommodate people within the system that we've already built, correct?
We are using the Lucy Marco space specifically for COVID isolation area. And so if need be, we can increase the space there. There's space available, but right now we're at 28 spaces and it's not been fully utilized yet.
Okay. Thank you so much for all your hard work on this, Deb. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next, Councillor Carpenter, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is for the Director of Homelessness. The hotels, when we use the hotels, Ms. Lichter, do we make sure that they are following all our hotel regulation bylaws that we put in place, that they are licensed properly?
Sorry, through the chair. Yes, we only work with licensed motel operators, and we have agreements with them that allow us to use those spaces. We also have some of our service providers have contracts also with the motel operators. So there are different contracts out there.
But the service providers and us all have to make sure that the hotel is licensed and it's operating according to our licensing bylaw?
Yes, they do.
Okay, and when we talk about damage to rooms, do we inspect the rooms first? And we have the ability to take at least a picture of the room first, so when damage is reported later, we actually know that the room was actually damaged, or what wasn't damaged in the first place?
I don't believe that we have the ability to inspect all the rooms beforehand, but there are support workers that are part of that system and do understand what the rooms look like and should look like and what should be available to people. So I don't know that they're inspected every single time, but we do know our operators, let's say, who we're working with, and we know the type of damages. And if there are damages that we don't feel are legitimate, we will not pay for those.
So when we send someone to, for example, one of the motels, does somebody accompany that individual that's looking for someplace to stay overnight to that motel, and somebody actually see them to the room?
There are support services available to them because they don't have access to food, meals, and other kind of support. So we do have support services available to them. Yes.
Okay, so there'd be an opportunity to take a picture of the room at that time. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Antosky, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up from what Councillor Carpenter was just asking about, and I'm not sure if Emma's online. I know at some point some of our motels were not yet licensed. I know some of that was a delay because of COVID. Has that changed? Have they all had their licensing, or is licensing still being held back for any types of reasons? Is there anybody available to answer that?
Through the chair to Councillor Antosky. So what happened during the pandemic was some delays in inspections, and that's still the ongoing case. As resources are deployed to other health concerns in other areas, we do see delays in some of our health inspections. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact list, but I can certainly have a memo sent to council members just identifying where we're at with the hotels and motels experience.
That would be great if we could get an update on who is actually licensed at this point. And Deb, sorry, another question in regard to capacity. And we talked a little bit about this at social services, because I have a concern about the overflow piece. And I'm going by memory the numbers, but I think that there were 784 motel nights. But there were only 100 and some odd nights at 90% capacity. So if that is the case, are we suggesting that the balance between those over 500 nights are people with families intact or pets? Or I'm concerned that the motel is supposed to be overflow, but yet we only hit 90% occupancy, for a small number of nights.
Yes, through the chair. You are correct in terms of the numbers of motel usages. That the motels are used for a number of circumstances. For example, our youth that have special circumstances. So there could be a number of reasons why we use the motels, but you're right that they're used a lot. And part of what we're trying to do is monitor how they're used and when they're used. And so that right now we have where we don't use that system until we need to use it, rather than just going to it as a first resort.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I'm all in favor of trying to find other ways that we're not having to use that overflow when we've got occupancy. Thanks so much, Deb. Thanks for everything. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Sluss, you're next in the speaking order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deb, what's the total price tag that we spend on housing the homeless? An annual cost?
I'm sorry, I don't have that number at hand. We spend not just on the formal shelter system, so our providers, our 5 providers that we have contracts with, but we also spend it on the motels. We also spend it on the Lucy Marco. Last year, we had the surf money, which really helped us out. And we'll have that again for next year up to the end of March. So a lot of the funding got bumped into SURF funding, which helped the municipality out. We can get you the exact number for the last year. I think we're just finalizing up budget numbers, so we'll know what 2021 numbers look like for full cost of the emergency shelter system.
Would I be in the ballpark at 2 million?
Yes, according to Anthony, that's correct.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Does the county contribute to that?
We are the service manager for both the county and the city.
Yes.
And the funding comes to us through Chippy and Reaching Home. The federal money is Reaching Home. Chippy is the provincial funding. And as a service manager, we apply that to the emergency system on behalf of both the county and the city.
Okay, but then are there direct municipal funds going into that as well to take it up to the 2 million?
Yes, there are some direct municipal cost shared dollars.
And they're cost shared
Yes,
with the county and the city?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then hotels. I'm not talking motels, I'm talking hotels. And it seemed to me last year when we had a person that was tested positive, they had to isolate, and I believe we had them at the Hampton Inn last year. If my memory is serving me correctly. I thought we had a number of people isolating there.
We've been using the Lucy Marco COVID isolation shelter last year for those kind of situations.
Okay. All right. I think that's it.
So, Mr. Hutchings, can you clarify that answer?
Just to Councillor Celeste's question and Deb Schlichter's answer, it was 2020. Excuse me. The summer of 2020 is when we used the Hampton Inn, Councillor. Since that time, since the beginning of 2021, we've been using Lucy Marco. So you're correct, but it's just the wrong year. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks, Mr. CEO. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Councillor Wall, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. A few questions. It's hard right here in the public setting, but I've made a commitment to ask these questions. So I apologize if they're maybe coming out of left field. But it's been a bit of a tough month optically, especially through social media, with a lot of people throwing some really heavy criticism on the city of Brantford and how it's dealing with our homelessness issue and with our addictions issues and with our shelter issues. There is a perception that because the shelter in the old police station isn't open, that there's nothing. And I know that I do my best when I'm replying to constituents and talking with people to, let them know that there are vacancies in our shelter and to let them know about the outreach team and to let them know about the task force and the social service committees and the reports and all the hard work. But I don't know what it is, but no matter how hard we try, it seems that the messaging isn't getting out there. And I'm not necessarily sure who these questions are for, but I'm going to ask them and I'm going to hope they can be answered in some capacity. So the first, it is repeatedly claimed that vulnerable people in our community are being refused access to the shelter. They're going to the shelter, Salvation Army or Rosewood, and they're being told you're banned or you're not allowed to come in. And that is completely contrary to the empty beds if they can't use those empty beds. And I'm wondering what those numbers are, the numbers of individuals who are banned. I'm hearing stories of people being banned for 30 days. And when I talk to staff at Rosewood or the Salvation Army, I'm told that that isn't true. So I'm just wondering where the rumor is coming from, or, there's got to be more to that story. And I just want maybe some comment on it on the record. Next, I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing that if you show up to the shelter and you've got drugs in your pocket or you've got a weapon in your pocket, that you have to turn away the drugs and the weapons to get into the shelter. And I mean, that kind of makes sense. You can't bring drugs and weapons into a shelter. But I hear that people aren't going because they've got nowhere to put those things. Not only that, but a lot of their personal belongings, maybe things that aren't illegal. So barrier of entry is what I'm talking about. And 3 times this week, I have had really intense conversations with constituents who have told me that other municipalities have these no barrier to entry shelters where you can just basically show up and they don't ask any questions. And they give you a hot meal and a bed and a place to sleep. And they're like, well, how come Brantford just can't do that? And I hate to be so abrupt, but how come Brantford can't just do that? I have a lot of faith in our system. The staff and the frontline workers and the emergency support services are doing everything that they can. But I don't think our community, not as a whole, but there are members of our community who seem to have lost faith in the system or believe that the people who are out are not getting the help they need. And I just asked a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm hoping you guys can provide some commentary on it. And for what it's worth, thank you, because I know your job is hard, and I'm just trying to provide clarity because something's being lost in translation, and it's tough.
Thank you for your questions through the chair. I will answer them at a certain level, and then I'll ask Anthony to add any additional details. But you are correct that shelters do have policies around when they can ban people and for what reasons and for how long. We have just we're at the process of sending out contracts. We have annual contracts with all our service providers. We're sending out contracts now that include having service providers follow the best practices around banning policies and procedures. And so we are looking at trying to provide some consistency across the shelter system so that each shelter has a similar type of policy so that it's not this a big difference in variations. But we are looking at all the service restriction concerns. We are concerned too as well, because when people are service restricted, where do they go? And that's why the extra 10 beds at the Salvation Army on the mattresses on the floor are meant to be the low barrier opportunity for people to go who are service restricted and or won't go into other regular shelter spaces. And so that is our low barrier option for this winter. I don't know if Anthony, you want to add anything more about storage. I think you said was the other issue. I believe there is a storage locker that we have available for people to put their storage in through one of the shelter systems. I think Anthony can add more to that, but they do have to not bring in certain items into the shelter, and they are kept for them, and they have access to them when they want to leave, unless they're illegal items. So I'll let Anthony, if you're there, to join in, please.
Yeah, thanks, Deb, and through the chair. Just echoing back to Councillor Wall, we are working on those service restriction procedures and policies. We want it to be more of a low barrier system, of course, and more consistent with having these policies in place amongst all of the service providers. We understand that the folks who are typically restricted are the ones who also make up those unsheltered in the encampments that we tend to come across. So I think that having these procedures in place and these being more streamlined with our system will serve a purpose in the future. And they are coming in the current contracts as well. In regards to space for storing things, one of our service providers, that would be Rosewood House, does have some sea cans that they are able to utilize for personal belongings. Obviously, contraband is not kept. It's not really welcome in some of the spaces, so we the providers would not typically keep that. They would discard of that, but personal belongings, clothing, anything of value, they would be able to store if necessary. Thank you.
So I'll move on to you've had your 5 minutes. Sorry, Councillor Well. So I'll move on to Councillor Van Tilburg. You're next.
Yeah, my understanding originally when we had opened up Rosewood House is that the intent was it to be a no barrier facility. I know previously when the welcome in was functioning, things had started to become more unruly by the year and by the month, and that they had requested some sort of a security presence. And in the transition of going to a 24-hour servicing with Rosewood, did we ever consider trying to remain a no barrier facility, possibly with the assistance of security?
Through the chair, we did not consider that option this winter because of past experiences of trying that option and some negative results. We feel that the spaces that we can provide through Salvation Army are going to be the low barrier option. They have staff on site. They can provide 3 meals. They can provide the supports. They can provide the connection to housing resources. And we feel that's a better way to connect people into the system. We are trying to find, it's a difficult balance, as you can imagine. We have needs out there that are different. The people that use the shelter are not necessarily the same people that will not use the shelter. So we're trying to find enough options available to meet the needs of both of those groups.
And when we hit capacity or we have to refer someone to a hotel or motel, are they checked for contraband? Are the same rules enforced, or do they just go and like regular people when they go to a hotel motel who aren't checked? Which way does it work? And if you were on the banned list and you were still seeking that, does that work as a societal ban, or is it place by place ban? That if you can answer in that fashion.
Yeah. So you have to imagine a system and how it can work. If we have the motels available for people who are banned, that is an incentive for people to not use the formal shelter system. So we are using primarily the space at Salvation Army as that's the place that you can go. Motels are not the option for that group. They have the higher needs. They need some level of supervision and support. We are encouraging them to use that space. The motel space would be for the more stabilized people within the formal shelter system. We can bump them out to make space for additional people if we need to. But for people with very high needs, it's best to have them in a location where supports can be available to them, and the motel system is not the ideal location.
And again, daily, how many people are using our shelters on average?
Just this last week, the Rosewood was at 95% occupancy, and Salvation Army was at 90% occupancy. So they're being used.
Cause for concern.
Yes.
You're at that threshold.
We are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So not seeing any more hands raised for discussion. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on this item?
Item 12.2.1, emergency shelter system update for 2021 to 2022 winter season, carried on a recorded vote of 10-1. Those voting in favor, Councillor Sikoli, Vanderstel, Leeslas, McCurry, Carpenter, and Toski, Venter, Borgwall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Martin.
All right, there's one remaining item to be separate. I asked for it to be separated. So Councillor Celeste, you mind chairing this very brief? I think it'll be a very brief section. So it's 12.4.8, the hybrid meeting support clerk's department. Yep, just have to unmute Councillor Celeste.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, fine. Does anybody want to speak to this item? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I don't really want to speak. I don't want to debate this again, other than to say I've asked for it to be separated. So that's a separate vote. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, I can't see the room. Is there anybody in the room wishing to speak?
Councillor McCurry has indicated his wish to speak.
Okay, Councillor McCreary, the floor is yours.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And despite your brief tenure in the chair, Councillor Slush, you are doing a lovely job. Just want to say that I'm still in support of this, and I certainly hope that the vote tonight will be unanimous.
Thank you, Councillor McCreary. Are there further speakers? I see Councillor Wall. Go ahead, Councillor Wall, the floor is yours.
No one is thrilled with what's happening right now in the world with this new variant and the new restrictions and all this stuff that's going on. And there's no doubt that it's going to have an impact on council meetings moving forward and an impact on the world moving forward. And I just think that it only shows that we are going to need our clerk's department at a full complement with all the resources that they need to be able to do what we do. Honestly, I don't mean to, be Josh, but I'm going to be Josh. Like, I miss the committee meetings. We are not having all of our committee meetings right now. The Brownfields Committee, for example, hasn't met. The Cultural Advisory Committee hasn't met. And that's because we don't have the resources for these committees to meet, and because it's not safe for us to be meeting in person. And the clerk's department handles that stuff. And not only that, but look what they've done here today. We've got a mixed council. Half of the people are there, half the people are there in person. And I can tell you, that's not a one-man show or one-woman show or one-person show. It's a production, and it has become more of a production than ever before. And I do hope that this gets the support that it needs. And I hope that all our departments get the support that they need. But right now, it is crucial that we provide good governance and that we do governance well. I'll repeat myself from the last meeting. And in order to be able to provide good governance and do governance well, we need a clerk's department that has everything that it needs. So I ask this council again to support, and I look forward to seeing this pass.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else in the chambers wishing to speak?
Through Chair Slash, there are no other speakers in the queue for in person.
Okay, and I see no virtual hands raised, so I'll ask you to please take the vote.
Item 12.4.8, hybrid meeting support, clerk's department carried on a recorded vote of 10-1. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Vanderstel, Utley, Slash, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Til, Burkwall. Those opposed, Mayor Davis.
All right, thank you. We'll move on then to urgent reports. There's only one for this evening, and that's the CEO's COVID-19 emergency update. And Councillor Sless, I understand you've got the mover of item 13.1 to receive that. So,
yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Utley, that report 2021-780 titled CAO COVID-19 Emergency Update be received.
thank you. And I understand, Councillor Antosky, you might have an amendment.
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Utley that item 13.1 be amended to include the following as clause B, that the clerk be directed to transition all council and its committee meetings, including council, committee of the wholes and standing committees, to solely virtual operations for January 2022, and that the January CAO COVID report to address the recommended procedure commencing February 1st. I think the amendment is self-explanatory. We are certainly listening to our health unit, and we want to be as cautious as possible as we watch how things move forward with COVID.
Speakers, Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, thank you on the amendment. Did the medical officer of health issue an order which brought this about?
Yeah, it's a good question. Ms. Hutchins, can you answer that?
There has been no section 22, I came through, Mr. Mayor, there's been no section 22 orders. We have correspondence from the medical officer of health that should be leave social interactions to be limited over the next number of weeks to remotely whenever possible. And right now, our social budget right now is worth prioritizing, and in-person social contact with the holidays should be minimal. She recommends to us in an email that she would support the remote council meetings at present over the next number of weeks.
So, Mr. Hutchings, do I understand that the Brant County Health Unit and its MOH could have issued an order under the section which you cited?
Yes, they could, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, they could, Councillor McCurry.
Does that mean that that we're embarking on a course of action that they don't feel strongly enough about to order us to comply with?
I believe if the medical officer of health is suggesting we try to keep our distance and keep separated, but it's not, I guess, acute enough to issue a section 22 on this matter.
I'm not necessarily asking for an answer to this, but is that not something of a mixed message? And not expecting an answer, I'm not upset with not getting one.
I hope you're not expecting an answer. I don't think it'd be fair to ask our CEO to answer that question.
I already prefaced that, and I will add that as I mentioned before, life is not fair. Thank you, Mr. Hutchings.
Okay. So on the Councillor Wall, on the virtual.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. And I just want to echo Councillor McCurry's comments that when Councillor Sless was in the chair, you did a great job. You're also doing a great job too. Okay. This is about governance again. I want to ask a question, and I don't know who's going to answer it, probably communications. So we have this really amazing system where people can delegate and they can come to council and they can speak. And if we're not meeting in person, that doesn't mean people can't delegate. That doesn't mean that people can't participate. It's just different. But just yesterday, I missed a phone call from a constituent, and there was a very lengthy voicemail, and she was very upset because she had heard a rumor that this amendment was coming and was under the impression that that meant the public can't participate in the democratic process, of which we are all very proud of. And I can't express that that's not true. You can still delegate, you can still watch on Zoom, you can watch on YouTube, and you can still be a part of this process. But there is a sentiment out there that this is prohibiting the democratic process in some way. And I don't know if it could be a friendly amendment, but I would definitely like some messaging put out, maybe through our social media, that if this were to pass, that just because we're going virtual, it doesn't prohibit. And I'm just wondering if maybe someone with more authority than me could comment on how easy it is to participate in a committee or council meeting, even though we're doing it virtually, and arguably how it might actually be easier. And that's it.
To you, Mr. Mayor, if I can, if there's a question there. Councillor, yes, we've always allowed delegations throughout our virtual sessions and hybrid sessions. If you look at our viewership has gone up during this time period, this hybrid time period, and people have been able to come in and use their hybrid. The clerk's office, as you know, has been very good at supporting those people in advance of the meetings, having discussion the day of, so they can have the technology to click in and click on the session. So that is available to the public, and I'm sure our Maria just came on, but our communication people would love to support that and help communicate that out.
All right, so sorry, Maria Vazaki, can you add to that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through you, Maria Vasaki, Director of Communications and Community Engagement, through to the councillor. You're right, councillor, in some ways it is easier to participate virtually. It's certainly more convenient. And the hybrid model also required people who wanted to attend council in person to register in advance. So really, by going virtual, the process doesn't change. You still have to register to be part of the meeting and to delegate to speak, but you can do it from the comfort of your own home. We have messaged that out every time we provide notice for a council meeting, but we can certainly, with council's direction tonight, if you so wish, make that further amplified when we communicate this decision of council tonight. We can make it a standalone communication.
I'd like to move that, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Well, we have this one amendment on the floor. Let's deal with it, and we can take other amendments if you want.
Can we amend the amendment? Just to add wording to put out a special messaging?
Yeah, I think it actually could go friendly. Yeah, Councillor Antosky is indicating that it's friendly. Councillor Utley is a seconder. So we have that friendly amendment.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Next, Councillor Antosky.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll speak for myself in this. I prefer to be in chambers. I prefer to be here with my colleagues. I think that there's some benefit to that. But I'm also happy to move this amendment. We know that things are unpredictable right now. And we can see that, you know, part of our councillors prefer to be home. Everybody has their different circumstances that they have to consider. And I'm okay with there not being an order. I think this is the right thing to do. I think we all see where things are going, and until we have a better look at things, I think that this is good for us, good for our families, good for staff, and hopefully we'll be back sooner than later if we take this measure. Thank you.
Sure. Councillor Sluss, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would rather be in person, but I think we have to look after our health, and I think this is an appropriate way to do it, is to be virtual. Well, it's not my favorite, it's not my choice. If I had a choice, I would like to think that it was safe enough that we could meet in person, but it's not. And there's no sense kidding ourselves. And I don't think, I could be wrong, maybe Mr. Hutchins could clarify, but even though our local medical officer of health has not ordered us to go virtual, I think the province is putting a directive out there that wherever possible, people work remotely. And I think in our case, our work is being on council, and we work remotely is by going virtual. So I think really what we're doing is we're complying with the order of the province. Have I got that twisted?
You, Mr. Mayor, the council is correct. There was 3 directions the province released last week on Wednesday. And that was one of the 3, that people work remotely as much as they possibly can and work from home.
Okay, so I think we're doing the right thing. Might not be the favorite thing for most, I think, on council, but I think it's the right thing given the situation that we're in, and hopefully we can get back to normal by getting this to tap down and you know, getting things under control and not overwhelming our hospitals, and getting back to normal as quickly as possible. And I think this is a good step towards that. So I'm pleased to support the amendment, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bannister had his hand up before me.
You have priority when you're in camera.
Okay.
When
That's
you're in the council.
about being live. Then. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. As new variants emerge, we have to find creative ways of dealing and adjusting what we do, how we live, how we work, how we conduct business for the city. So I'm happy to support Councillor Antosky's amendment and support this. And we may be doing this for some time yet, but there's so many unknowns facing us going into 2022. Thank you.
Councillor Vanderstel, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would have seconded this had Councillor Utley not jumped in. Now, if you think back to Section 22 in the early stages of COVID's attack on us, we had that option as members of council to vote for the mask mandate. That wasn't a Section 22 that was imposed. That was something that the municipality did on its own based on the best recommendations that were coming forward from the Board of Health at the time. And if I recall, I was not able to attend that meeting, but I think everybody voted in favor of that mask mandate. And I think the idea behind it was, if I got the quote right, I'd rather be safe than sorry. From my perspective anyway, there's so many more people connected to my circle that I have to make sure that I protect. And if working virtually adds one more layer of security to protect the people around me, family, constituents, otherwise, I'm very glad to do it. As a matter of fact, I would call it gratefulness. I'm glad we have this opportunity. I'm glad we have this option. But for me, it becomes a lot more personal. I am compromised. My respiratory system is compromised and has been for a number of years. As many of you know, I have spent months bedridden as a result of this respiratory difficulty that I deal with. And I would not want to have it compromised again and further by a much more contagious strain. This is, perhaps you'd like to meet in person, as Councillor Van Tilburg has mentioned in the past. You're much more effective in person. I agree. But the bottom line is we're protecting our family. We're protecting our constituents. We're protecting the people, the residents of the city of Brantford. And we have the option to do so. And I'm grateful to do so. And if I could third this amendment, I certainly would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sokoli.
I just have a quick question through you, Mr. Mayor, likely to our clerk here. If we are 100% virtual, do staff still have to come into the building to facilitate that, or is that done virtually from on staff's end as well?
Through the chair to Councillor Sokoli. So there is a small amount of staff that would need to be in person. So clerking staff do need to be here in order to operate the virtual experience. And then other staff may choose to utilize meeting spaces within this facility. Maybe there's Wi-Fi concerns, or they want to be able to use office space that is located within the building. That is a choice that they potentially make. But there is a handful of staff that would be needed in person to facilitate the virtual, including the chair attending on site as well.
So even if we're virtual, we can still be here and you will still be here. Am I understanding that correctly?
Through the chair to Councillor Sokoli. In the past, when we had virtual operations, it was only the chair. Only the chairs from council members that was present. That was again to reduce the contact, and then clerk member staff would be here as well. It takes two of us to operate the meeting from on site, so that we wouldn't be able to do that. But we would have security or cleaning facility staff stand down. They would not be needed as they would be today for hybrid. Virtual also talks about how the public participates. So when we go solely virtual, that is when members of the public, either attending statutory hearings or for other meetings, would attend only in a virtual manner.
Understood. Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I need to understand the amendment a little clearer. So the amendment is saying that it's mandatory that all members of council will participate virtually. And as I understand it, like we're doing now, we've had the choice of not attending in person and attending virtually, which I have been doing. So I'm just wondering, does the amendment just makes it mandatory? It takes away the right of members of council if they wish to attend in person. Am I clear about that? Is that what the resolution is from the clerk, please?
Clarify that.
That's good. Through the chair to Councillor Carpenter, the language doesn't reflect necessarily mandatory. The electronic policy that you referenced, which has members participating virtually tonight, would still be in play. But what we're talking about is reverting to what our virtual standards were, which only has the chair side by clerk staff in council chambers to facilitate the meeting, and all other council members would be understood to participate at home.
Yeah, so it's mandatory then members of council will be virtual is what I'm saying. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's implicit in that virtual policy procedure we followed over the last year and a half. That virtual means we're all attending other than the chair virtually. And that's in fact what's been recommended by the Medical Office of Health. So next, I think Councillor Van Tilburg, did you have your hand up?
I am good now. It's all been discussed.
Okay, great. All right, so I'll call the vote then on the amendment.
The amendment to item 13.1 CAO COVID-19 emergency update has carried on a recorded vote of 9-1. Those voting in favor, Councillor Utley, Celeste McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Sokoli. Councillor Vanderstelt was not present at the time of the vote.
All right, so we then have the motion on the floor to actually receive the CAO's report. Any discussion on that? Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, thank you very much. I believe I asked this question previously and received a most satisfactory answer. However, there may be people watching tonight that previously did not hear the answer to this question. What we have before us is an urgent report, which apparently is on every agenda now. I don't know that there's anything urgent about it, and I wonder if we should simply be including this as a consent item from now on.
Yes, CEO Brian Hutchings.
So you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor McCurry, we still are, the city still is in a state of emergency. I know it's hard to believe after a year and 6 months, but we still have a declaration of state of emergency that mayor has not lifted. There's been no recommendation. This report covers a lot of things where things are opening and closing. This one, not as much as other ones. And really, this is for be transparent for council, be aware of what's opening and closing, some things you may not be aware of, and also the public to be aware. I still would feel obliged that it should be reported on council, whether it stays as urgent or consent. That's up to council's discretion, but it really falls under the emergency declaration and quite standard amongst most municipalities and most CEOs reporting to their council for changes in operations that aren't normal part of operations.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchings. I wonder if you could also advise where constituents can go tomorrow to receive vaccines and boosters as a walk-in patient.
Councillor, I don't have that. Through Mr. Mayor, I don't have that information available to me.
Apparently, the health unit doesn't have it either. They don't appear to know the right hand who's dealing with the left hand. I wonder if staff could tomorrow, Councillor Carpenter, don't make those sort of gestures, please. That's unbecoming conduct. I've had constituents who've gone to the expositor building and been told to go to the mall, and they've gone to the mall and been told to go to the expositor building. So if you take issue with my comment, that's on you, not on me, Councillor. I'm sorry for the crosstalk, Mayor, but
would you please stop the crosstalk? Let's stick to the matter at hand, the CEO's report, please.
Perhaps the mayor should pay attention to what's going on the screen then, so the councillor doesn't have to look after his own interests.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Councillor Carpenter, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And CEO Brian Hutchings, I just want to offer you congratulations to you and the team. They've been excellent reports all the way along and terrific information. I know there's some stress level here because I know I report the COVID numbers every day. And I've been asking myself is there a PTSD effect by knowing the numbers every day? And your staff doing this every day, you're right on top of what's happening. And so I'm just wondering, and how are staff handling the issues that they've been dealing with because they're right up front?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor, your question is quite timely. We had a senior leadership team meeting. So we've met 4 times since last Wednesday on some, may seem like small issues, but they're big issues to this community. And, things, many, I'm not going to get into small issues, but there are many small issues, which are big issues to us. And we're still meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30. There is concern of senior staff, and our senior leadership team was raised today about people's mental health and stress levels and things like that. It's accumulating. We've got 3 or 4 big issues out there that we're dealing with on regular business issues. This is weighing on staff, many things they're doing and what have you. So thank you very much for that question. And the short answer is yes, it is troubling for many staff.
And I just can't thank all the staff for that work. And I just want to highlight, because I do post every day on my Facebook post all the information that's available throughout the community from the health unit. So I am concerned when I hear comments that aren't so supportive. But the health unit does. There is no booster where you can just walk in and get your booster shot. That's not available by a walk-in spot, unless, of course, there's some of the pharmacies or those that are providing vaccines have a surplus of vaccines before the end of the evening, and you may be able to get in those points. But because the province changed the age from down to 50 and then all of a sudden down to 18, a lot of people were booking quickly and the booking spots were jammed up, and they have no free booking spots till after January 7th. It's on my Facebook site as well. It's on the health unit site, and the locations where you must book. And you can only book if you've actually met the timelines, and the timelines have changed, adjusted. So I have had no problem with anybody falling through the system that's on the Brant County Health Unit site, getting their bookings, and I've had no concerns in that regard. The only concern I did get was those that weren't getting the quick tests. The schools are providing them to all the school children when they went home, but the daycares hadn't been able to provide them to those children when they went home, the quick test issues. And the other concern I've noticed with my postings is that the testing has gone down significantly. So that means people are not, not as many people getting tested, but the numbers have gone up. Like Monday reporting 93 was very problematic. It was for the whole weekend, and today again 21. So that and I'm seeing that the variant is still the Delta variant, and we haven't seen the Omicron variant at least reported on through the health unit numbers yet. And I suspect we will see that, and that's far more contagious. So I hope that everybody would that can get the vaccine will get the vaccine, and that you'll book online. And if you're not happy with the Brant County Health Unit site, you can go on the provincial website and still book your vaccine appointment as well. Thank you.
Councillor Sluss, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, Mr. Mayor, we sit on the Board of Health, as does Councillor Van Tilburg, and we get a weekly update with a projection of what's going on the coming week. And I was just looking it up as I was hearing that people are not knowing where to go. Clinics scheduled for the current week, December 20th to 26th. First dose clinics continue for those 5 to 11, and for 12 and second doses, and 18 plus for third doses at Henry Street, Linden Park Mall, and Paris Fairgrounds. In addition, teams will continue with provision of immunization to homebound individuals. So we're going out to folks and immunizing people that aren't mobile or that can't get to a clinic. We're doing that as a health unit. And I think the others are self-exclamatory where they are. And as was just said by Councillor Carpenter, unfortunately, the number I heard was when the province approved people from 18 and up to get a third dose, all of a sudden in one day we had 10 million people eligible to get a third dose. And that just jammed the system. And the problem was the tech savvy younger people got in and got the bookings, and the older folks that aren't so tech savvy or don't have internet or don't have a cell phone got stuck on a phone line that's very hard to get through to, and they didn't get a booking. So there's some frustration there, but it's simply volume that is the frustration. But we're working our way through it as a community, and all our sites are working at capacity. So we're doing what we can do with what we have to work with. The situation is not good because it's flooded with people that need inoculation. So if anybody is confused out there as to where to go, they can certainly contact me. I'll give them the information. I'm glad to share it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Councillor Sluss. Councillor Van Tilburg, second time.
Councillor Sluss, I don't think I spoke to this, but Councillor Sluss covered most of the things that I was going to breach upon. Just to make it clearly, it was only on the 20th, and we're at the 21st today, that a radical change was done in the delivery mechanism and how it was to be unfolded. So the ages dropped, timelines shortened, in order to get more people vaccinated quicker in a shorter period of time. But that has led exactly, I'm actually surprised that Councillor Sluss was aware of how the tech savvy people got ahead or bumped or really filled the system up in a very, it took no time to fill up all those spots. And so that's why there is the delay with getting the third dose. But yeah, walk-ins still exist for those who are of 5 to 11 and getting the first and second doses. That's still available. So most is covered, but yeah, it was that radical change about 26 hours ago or so, which threw a wrench in the delivery system.
All right. So, Madam Clerk, if you please take the vote on this item, receiving the report.
Item 13.1 CAO COVID-19 emergency update as amended has carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Sakoli, Vandersalt, Utley, Sluss, McCurry, Martin, Carpenter, and Toski, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll move to notices of motion. I believe there's one that's on tonight's agenda. Councillor Vanderstel, if you please read the title of your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, noise attenuation wall along Colborne Street West. Thank you.
All right. And sorry, we do actually have, glad you've read that, but we do have a resolution from the special in-camera meeting regarding the QP harmonized benefit plan settlement. I believe Councillor Martin, you got that motion. So if you please move it, read it, and identify your second.
Thank you. I move, seconded by Councillor McCurry. A, that council ratify the settlement reached between the corporation and City of Brantford and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, CUPE, City Hall Unit, Ontario Works, Brant Housing Unit, and the Outside Unit for amendments to the CUPE Harmonized Benefit Plan. And B, that the Director of Human Resources be delegated authority to execute the memorandum of settlement and any auxiliary documents necessary to effect the settlement ratified in Clause A above.
All right. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on this remaining resolution?
Item 14.1, resolution from the special city in-camera meeting held on December 14th, 2021 regarding tentative settlement for amendments to the QP Harmonized Benefit Plan was carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Sicoli, Vanderstel, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Carpenter, Antosky, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll move right into bylaws then. Just a reminder that because some of the staff are participating virtually, if there are any extensive amendments at third reading, that may require the bylaw be deferred to the next meeting in order to be approved with whatever amendment might be made. So with that being noted, I believe Councillor Antosky, you have the motion for first and second reading of the bylaws. Do you please confirm that, state your seconder, and read the motion?
I do, seconded by Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Sicoli. You'll see what Councillor Van Tilburg was referring to earlier this evening. The leave be given to the mover and seconder to introduce the following bylaws for first and second reading. 234-2021, bylaw to authorize the execution of agreements individually dated and listed on Schedule A attached here to 1, subdivision agreement between the Corporation of the City of Brantford, Brantford Power Incorporated, and Lasani Homes Limited regarding Brant West Phase 2. 235-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate part of Block 230, Plan 2M-1961 being Part 2 on Reference Plan 2R-8613, City of Brantford being part of PIN 32275-0593 as part of the public highway to be known as Macklin Street. Bylaw 236-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate part of Block 229, Plan 2M-1961 being Part 3 on Reference Plan 2R-8614, City of Brantford being part of the PIN 32275-0592 as part of the public highway to be known as Dennis Avenue. Bylaw 237-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate Reserve Block 297, Registered Plan 2M-1964, City of Brantford, being all of PIN 32068-2767, Reserve Block 299, Registered Plan 2M-1964, City of Brantford, being all of PIN 32068-2769, and Reserve Block 300, Registered Plan 2M-1964, City of Brantford, being all of PIN 32068-2770 as part of the public highway to be known as Longboat Run West. Bylaw 238-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate Reserve Block 301, Registered Plan 2M-1964, City of Brantford, being all of PIN 32068-2771 as part of the public highway to be known as Brody Avenue. Bylaw 239-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate Reserve Block 335, Registered Plan 2M-1970, City of Brantford, being all of PIN 32068-3157 as part of the public highway to be known as Brody Avenue. Bylaw 240-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate Reserve Block 334, registered plan 2M-1970, City of Brantford being all of PIN 32068-3156 as part of public highway to be known as Holder Drive. Bylaw 241-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate Reserve Block 336, registered plan 2M-1970, City of Brantford being all of PIN 32068-3158 as part of the public highway to be known as B Crescent. Bylaw 242-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate Reserve Block 214, registered plan 2M-1961, City of Brantford being all of PIN 322750577 as part of the public highway to be known as Ingalls Ave. Bylaw 243-2021, bylaw to declare and dedicate Reserve Block 211, registered plan 2M-1961, City of Brantford being all of PIN 32275-0574 as part of the public highway to be known as Wakeling Drive. Bylaw 245-2021, bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88 being a bylaw to regulate parking in the City of Brantford, Elgin Street. 246-2021, bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 being a bylaw to adopt various City of Brantford policies, public works policy amendments. Thank you. Bear with me, I lost my spot. I think I'm at 247. Thank you. 247-2021, bylaw to amend bylaw 37-83 being a bylaw to regulate traffic in the City of Brantford. 248-2021, bylaw to amend bylaw 37-83 being a bylaw to regulate traffic in the City of Brantford. Bylaw 249-2021, bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88 being a bylaw to regulate parking in the City of Brantford. Bylaw 250-2021, bylaw to amend bylaw 52-2021 being a bylaw to fix fees and charges to be collected by the Corporation of the City of Brantford. Bylaw 251-2021, bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy and to provide for the payment of taxes for the year 2022. Bylaw 252-2021, bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 to adopt finance policy 015. Bylaw 253-2021, bylaw to establish a development charges reserve fund for childcare. 254-2021, bylaw to authorize the temporary borrowing of monies to meet until the taxes are collected the current expenditures of the corporation for the year 2022. Bylaw 255-2021, bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 to repeal and replace finance policy 002. Bylaw 256-2021, bylaw to update the Heritage Grant Program. Bylaw 257-2021, bylaw to amend Corporate Policy 10, Delegation of Authority Policy. 258-2021, bylaw to amend Chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code. Bylaw 259-2021, Indigenous Affairs Advisor Position. Bylaw 260-2021, bylaw to amend Chapter 26 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code by amending Schedule 5. Bylaw 261-2021, bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford with respect to the meeting held on December 21st, 2021. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Antosky. Does anybody want any of the bylaws separated for discussion purposes at first and second reading? Councillor Carpenter.
Oh, sorry, bylaw 245.
Sorry, what was the number again?
Bylaw number 245, please.
245, all right. Okay. Anything else separate for discussion? Councillor Vanderstel. I think got a conflict at one, link 237 and through to 244, I think.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else anyone else wants separated first and second reading? Seeing none. Let's deal first of all with bylaw 245 that Councillor Carpenter asked to be separated for discussion. Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought this was an item that was deferred by the ward councillor. Is this the parking on Elgin Street? So I thought this was deferred, and I'm just wondering if that deferral was no longer necessary.
Through you, Mayor Davis, this was referred back to staff to come back with a report in February. So I don't think we need this bylaw to be approved tonight. It would actually change what would be out there on the road.
So it shouldn't really be on the agenda tonight. Would that be correct? Okay, thank
I
you.
would agree with that. I'd have the clerk respond, but I would think we don't need that today.
All right, thank you.
We'll just check on that. Yeah, so this shouldn't be on. Yeah, that's a good point, Councillor Carpenter. This one should be struck from the list. So for the mover and seconder, we agree with take off 245 for first and second reading. So we'll deal then with the items that Councillor Vanderstel has a conflict on, 237 through to 244, and 245 is no longer part of first and second reading. So let's deal with those bylaws separately, noting Councillor Vanderstel's conflict. Madam Clerk.
Yeah, Councillor Wall, we're just waiting on your response.
Sorry, I voted in the affirmative.
Certainly, I'll mark that for you. The first and second reading of bylaws 237 to 244 carry on a recorded vote of 10-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Sikoli, Utley, Martin, McCurry, and Toski, Carpenter, Wall, Van Tilburg, Mayor Davis, noting Councillor Vanderstel's conflict.
All right, I'll now call the vote on the remaining bylaws with the exception of 245 that has been removed from the list.
First and second reading of all remaining bylaws is carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. Sorry, the display, I think, is, we may be going to show of hands here in just a moment. It seems like our voting wants to give us tricks at our last meeting of the year. So it carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Sikoli, Utley, Martin, McCurry, and Toski, Carpenter, Van Tilburg, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, we'll move then to third reading. I believe Councillor Utley, do you have the resolution third reading?
Could that be brought up on the screen, please?
One second, Councillor Utley, I got to remove 245 from the record.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
1 second, I'll explain.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by my ward mate, Councillor John Slice, that bylaw 234-2021 through to and including bylaw 261-2021 be taken as read a third time and be finally passed and signed by the mayor and clerk.
All right, and this does not include bylaw 245. So we already know bylaw from number 237 through 244, that'll be dealt with separately because of Councillor Vanderstelt's conflict. I understand, Councillor Wall, you also would like one separated for an amendment. That would be bylaw 259, I believe. Is that the one?
Bylaw 259-2021.
Right, okay. Are there any other bylaws anybody wants separated for discussion purposes? Seeing none. So Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the bylaws that have not been separated for discussion purposes and just confirm the numbers for us.
I can't just run anything, Lisa, so just, it's not working. Certainly, so through to council, as suspected, our voting system has gone down. So we're going to be doing this manually. So what the number sequence would be for third reading from bylaw 234 through to and including 244, then 246 through to and including 261. We're separating out numbers 237 to 244 for Vanderstelt's conflict and separating out 259 for Councillor Wall's amendment. All remaining is what you're voting for. 245 is not included.
All right.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay, so we'll be doing in room first and then through to virtual. So starting with councillors in person, those in favor. Councillor Antosky, Councillor Sokoli, Councillor McCurry, Councillor Utley, Mayor Davis, virtually. Those in favor. Councillors Martin, Councillor Vanderstelt, Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Slash, Councillor Van Tilborg. Councillor Wall, are you in favor of the remaining? Thank you, Councillor Wall. Third reading of all bylaws not separated have carried.
All right, so let's deal with bylaws 237 through to 244 because of Councillor Vanderstelt's conflict. And if you would, any discussion on those? Saying none. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on those bylaws, third reading?
Certainly. So third reading for bylaws 237 to 244, noting Councillor Vanderstelt's conflict. Those in favor, please. Councillor Antosky, Councillor Sokoli, Councillor McCurry, Councillor Utley, Mayor Davis, virtually. Those in favor. Councillors Martin, Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Slash, Councillor Van Tilburg, Councillor Wall, again noting Councillor Vanderstelt's conflict.
All right. So we have one remaining bylaw for third reading. That's bylaw 259-2021. Councillor Wall, you asked that to be separated for an amendment. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Davis, and through you, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor John Sless of the Second Ward. Amendment that bylaw 259-2021 be amended to include the following. A, all references to the position be stated as Indigenous Affairs Advisor. B, within the whereas clause, add the following. 1, whereas positions with a similar reporting structure are hired under Human Resources Policy 016, hiring policy for general manager and other identified positions. And as such, it is appropriate that the Indigenous Affairs Advisor be added to that policy and that the recruitment take place in accordance with that policy. And 2, whereas at its meeting on June 7th, 2010, City Council passed bylaw 70-2010, being a bylaw to adopt various policies of the City of Brantford and to create a corporate policy manual, which policies are attached thereto as Appendix A And C, add clauses as follows. 1, that bylaw 70-2010 is hereby amended by amending Appendix A, attached there by amending Human Resources Policy 016, hiring policy for general manager and other identified positions to include Indigenous Affairs Advisor to the list of identified positions. And 2, that the clerk be directed to update the corporate policy manual to reflect the amendment to said policy approved herein. And 3, that steps be taken in the recruitment process are hereby ratified.
Great. And Councillor Wall, by explanation?
We have really talented and incredible staff who have advised that we make this amendment, and I trust our staff explicitly.
Mr. Hutchings?
If I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, as you know, the council moved this position. It's a position that's reports to myself, the mayor's office, as well as to council. So it's very similar to some other positions at the corporation. We felt it, since it reports to council, we'd go through the same process as the GMs and other positions like the fire chief and the chief building officer and the clerk and the solicitor do. And that we would take it through a process where there's an internal staff process for interviews, then to the HR vice chair and chair and yourself, Mr. Mayor, as well as then to council. So this now formulates that to the same policy as the GMs and the solicitor and the clerk and the other positions. This will solidify that and create it into our policy manual. That policy was done way before this position was thought of. So this now brings this position into that and just keeps it in parallel with those other positions.
All right. Seeing no further questions or discussion, I'll call the vote then on the amendment to bylaw 259.
Certainly. So for those, for the amendment, please, those in favor of the amendment. Councillor Antosky, Councillor Sokoli, Councillor McCurry, Councillor Utley, Mayor Davis, virtually those in favor. Councillors Vanderstelt, Martin, Van Tilburg, Slash, Carpenter. Councillor Wall, I don't see your hand, but this was, thank you.
All right, any discussion on the bylaw as amended? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on the third reading of this bylaw as amended?
Certainly. So third reading for bylaw 259 as amended. Those in favor, please. Councillor Antosky, Councillor Sokoli, Councillor McCurry, Councillor Utley, Mayor Davis, those virtually in favor. Councillors Martin, Vanderstelt, Slash, Van Tilburg, Carpenter, and Wall.
All right, then, while I sign the bylaws, we'll go around the virtual and real council chambers for ward announcements. Any comments? Yes, and I think I'll start to my right. That would be you, Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, thank you very much. Well, first of all, just a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to our constituents. Although it wasn't separated for discussion tonight, folks in the beautiful third ward should know that council unanimously supported the 40K speed limit reduction for Sandus Street and unanimously supported the always stop at the corner of Evelyn and Bernard Streets. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll see you on the other side.
Councillor Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly too like to share the Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy 2022 with our neighborhood associations, our residents of Ward 2, the city as a whole, the county, our friends, Six Nations of the Grand River and the New Credit of the Mississaugas, and especially our city staff who do such a wonderful job. I'd also like to add congratulations to Councillor Wall and his wife on the birth of their daughter, Evelyn. It's a wonderful name. That was my mother's name. So I hope you get as much joy out of having a child as I think all of us are in that category. We're parents, and that's why most of us have got gray hair and some with hardly any. So anyway, enjoy. It's a beautiful experience.
Councillor Antosky.
Thank you, Mayor. A quick ward update for part of our ward, and of course, anybody in Ward 4 is welcome to attend, but we do have a virtual follow-up meeting for our Echo Place meeting that we had in the fall on January 6th. You can register to attend. It, of course, is all virtual, but happy to have anybody there. I also would like to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday season. Think about those who might be isolated or not able to get together with family and friends, and please reach out to them, because there are a lot of people that are quite isolated right now, and this is a really tough time of year. So just, put a couple minutes of thought into that. And, let's hope that going into the new year, we start to see some normalcy. I think we've got a little bit of a hike ahead of us, but let's all work together and make sure that we get beyond this. Happy holidays to everyone, and please stay safe and care for others around you. Thank you.
Councillor Sicoli, do you have any ward announcements you want to make in your first evening?
Talk about putting me on the spot. No, I don't yet. But I will just echo the sentiments of the councillors in the chamber, and just wish everyone in Ward 1, as well as all of the staff here in City of Brantford, as well as the councillors, a very happy holidays and a happy new year, and stay safe. And I look forward to starting fresh in 2022 and moving forward with everyone here. Thank you very much.
All right, I'll now go to the virtual screen. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and congratulate Councillor Wall once more. Thank you.
Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very healthy season. Greetings to everybody. And the rumors are absolutely true. There were some rapid tests being delivered to undisclosed sites in the city of Brantford, here, there, and everywhere. We weren't really sure when or where they were going to happen. And unfortunately, a little bit of hoarding happened and some scalping happened, where people were actually selling some of these rapid tests outside of the facilities where they were being supplied. These aren't rumors, these are true. Hopefully, with the 12 people that are watching, hopefully some of them are press and actually pick this up and do some investigative reporting to find out how pervasive that problem was. But if you are scalping, please remember what you're taking, the opportunities that you're taking away from family members. It should be available for everybody. If you're profiteering, shame on you. If you're taking the opportunity to meet away from grandparents who are looking forward to seeing their grandchildren, that's beyond the pale. Let's not do that anymore. Perhaps we can do better than that the next time around. I'm not sure when the next rapid test may be delivered, but let's do better. Perhaps call it a New Year's resolution. Let's treat each other with a bit more respect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Carpenter, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as my ward mate said, Councillor Antosky, we've been busy this week delivering flyers that look similar to this, that say award your neighborhood. You'll find them in your mailbox, especially if you're only if you're south of the 403 in Ward 4, that you'll see that Councillor Antosky and I and the Neighborhood Association has been involved as well to help deliver flyers to everyone's door. And there's on that flyer, it's a wrap up of the meeting that we had in September. It doesn't matter whether you were there in September or not, you can still come to this meeting and speak. You have to register, of course. And the meeting is a little longer this time. It's going to be 3 hours. And after we give you the update of what was resolved from that particular meeting, there'll be an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions or to provide further information to both of us. So we've been busy on the street, not knocking on doors, but knocking on mailboxes, putting in these flyers to make sure they get delivered in time before the season. Please keep them in mind. And again, I already congratulated Councillor Wall, but I can't congratulate him again. There's nothing more precious, especially daughters. They are precious. If you need any fatherly advice, certainly call Councillor John Sless. He certainly has had he's had quite a few and grandchildren and more children, but it is a wonderful, wonderful experience, Councillor Wall, and to you and your wife and your lovely daughter. Congratulations. What a Christmas present. What a wonderful Christmas you're going to have. Just congratulations to you. And my wife and I are so excited when we saw the photo. And then, as my ward mate also said, please check in on your neighbors. A lot of senior neighbors are home, and with COVID, they may not be able to get around family. They may actually be spending Christmas Day alone. In fact, I'm sure there's a lot that are. So please, please look in on your neighbors and see what you can do to provide. Even if you're cooking a meal, maybe you can deliver a meal to them and to the doorstep, so they're not so lonely. But just check in on them, please. And again, from Councillor Antosky and I, we would like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And please be kind to each other. Thank you.
Councillor Sluss. So you have to unmute, Councillor Sluss.
Okay. I'm not sure if anybody said Merry Christmas yet, but I'll say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. Not just in Ward 2, but obviously the entire city and the staff that serve us so well all year long. I would suggest that we be patient with people. It's that time of the year. Everybody's in a hurry. Everybody's got to get there faster than the guy beside them. Take your time. Be polite. Be patient. If you haven't had a booster, get an appointment and get your booster. If you haven't had a shot at all, please get out there and get one. You're doing yourself and you're doing the community and you're doing the healthcare system a huge favor by doing that. Having said that, I got a message from somebody. Today's an interesting day. It's the 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century. So there you go. Something to think about tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Councillor Van Tilburg.
I don't think Councillor Wall would mind hearing this again. Congratulations to you and Stephanie. I got your little girl's picture up in front of me right now. And when I look at her, it puts a grin on my face. And what surprises me most of all is that I didn't think Joshua could have a bigger grin than he has. And the grin that he's been having the last little while has been massively huge, and can't hide that. So, yeah, man, did you ever get a Christmas present? So congratulations to you and your family. To reiterate what Councillor Sluss just said, because it was on my mind, because I'm a last minute shopper and I will be rushing around like the rest of you. And that's just a good moment for pause. Take your time. This is a very special year for us all. Let's not get hurt trying to be in a hurry. So we know what we've got to do. Just take your time, take a pause, think about it when you're out there doing your shopping or getting around or visiting family. You know, and it still gets dark fairly early. So, you know, just keep your eyes and your wits about you, and beware of the weather, everything that you got to do, because there's more than COVID that we have to think about when we're trying to stay safe for this Christmas break. So Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all.
All right. Councillor Wall.
So I feel like people want to meet Evelyn, so I'm going to bring her on the screen so you guys can all see her. This is my beautiful daughter, Evelyn Catherine Wall, and my outstanding mother-in-law, Sherry. Hi, Sherry. Thank you. She can't wait to meet you all, and thank you so much to everybody for your kind words. It means so much to me and my family. We are tremendously blessed to have so many people in our community who care about us and care about her, and it is the best Christmas gift a man can receive. I'm so thankful. I do have ward announcements, so I'll share those with you. We are looking for more volunteers at our neighborhood associations, people who are passionate about their community. And if you're looking for a New Year's resolution for 2022, perhaps getting more involved in your community and the neighborhood associations would be a great resolution to have. I'm so thankful for our neighborhood associations. I repeatedly say it, they are some of the most passionate, brilliant, dedicated community members, and they make things happen. We're looking for people now for flooding rinks. We're looking for people to run programs. We're looking for people to just be great people. So I want to give a shout out to that. Additionally, COVID sucks, and the businesses in our community are hurting. And so many of my friends are local business owners, and they don't know how they're going to get through another round of this. If you have the means and the ability this holiday season, when you're considering purchasing gifts, I implore you to please consider purchasing local. Please consider supporting a local business on Boxing Day or into the new year. If you can, find a way. The local businesses are the ones who support our arts and culture and sports teams, and they're there for you when you need them. We need to be there for them now. And I know that everybody's challenged and I know that everybody's struggling, but if you have the ability just to do one extra item, that could be the difference between a business keeping its doors open or closing forever. And we've lost so many through this. And sorry, I'm a little sentimental, but I just became a dad, so bear with me. But I love this community and I want to see it thrive and prosper. And I love you all. Season's greetings to our staff, to my fellow members of council, and of course to the neighborhood associations. Happy holidays. I love you, and see you next year.
Well, I don't think we can top that. My congratulations as well to Councillor Wall and Stephanie for the new arrival and their family, and just an unbelievable way to begin your Christmas festival season. To the community at large, my members of council, the staff, I wish you the best for the season. Season's greeting. Please stay safe as we face another variant. We've dealt with this before, 3 or 4 times before. We know what we need to do. I am very hopeful that we will soon see the end of this pandemic and this will be the last of waves, but we've got to get through it. I'm sure we can. We've done a great job as a community, a stellar record actually in terms of this country, how well we've done in our community in comparison to many others. But we have one last challenge to get through, I think. And so, as I said, I wish the community the best for the festive season. And again, please stay safe and enjoy yourself, enjoy your family, enjoy the time you have together. Thank you. So until the new year, I declare this meeting adjourned.